Hello everybody, welcome to this class. Today we're going to talk about comparative and superlative adjectives. So here we go. We're going to use this very famous family that we have here, okay? We're going to talk about rules and also we are going to give you some examples. Okay, so let's start. So, when do we use comparative adjectives? Comparative adjectives, as the word says, is used to compare two objects or two people or two places, two animals, two of anything, okay? So when you want to compare, you are going to use comparative adjectives, okay? So here are the rules. Rule number one. When we have adjectives that only have one syllable, you have to add ER at the end of the adjective. So for example, we have the adjective that has just one syllable. You have to add ER at the end. And something really important in comparative adjectives is this word that we have here. That is the word then, okay? You have to always use a then when you're talking about comparative adjectives, okay? So we have an example here, okay? This is the character Bart, and this is Maggie, okay? We are going to compare them. Okay, something that it's really obvious here is the height, okay? So the example says, Bart is taller than Maggie, okay? Taller, as you can see, this adjective tall has only one syllable. So it applies for rule number one. When you have one syllable, just add ER at the end of the adjective, okay? Then the word then, and then the second subject that is being compared, okay? So Bart is taller than Maggie. Let's continue to the second rule, okay? For the second rule, we have adjectives ending in Y. When the adjective ends in Y, you have to change the letter Y to a letter I, and then you have to add ER at the end also, always at the end of the adjective, okay? And obviously the word then, okay? The example says lazy. Lazy is an adjective that ends in Y. So as the rule says, you have to change the letter Y into an I and then add ER and the word then, okay? So the example, Homer is lazier than Lisa, okay? So this is a clear example of this adjective, okay? Homer is lazier than Lisa that is studying, okay? So rule number three. Rule number three, when you have one syllable adjective ending in this pattern, consonant plus vowel plus consonant, you have to double the last consonant and add ER at the end of the adjective after the new consonant that you add, okay? So for example, we have here the adjective fat. Fat is a one syllable adjective that ends in consonant, vowel, consonant. So what do you have to do? You have to add another consonant that in this case is the letter T. So you write double T, and then finally you add ER at the end, okay? And the word then. For example, here, Homer is fatter than Marge. She's really slim, okay? So Homer is fatter than Marge. Rule number four, more than a rule, this is like an exception to all the rules because we have here irregular adjectives that you have to memorize them, okay? So we have good, bad, far, and much, okay? So the comparative form of good is better than. The comparative form of bad is worse than. And here we have two options for the comparative of far that can be farther than and further than. Okay, and finally the adjective much, that the comparative form is more. Okay, so let's continue. The summary of the comparative adjectives is the following. Okay, so rule number one, just simple as this. When you have a one-syllable adjective, just add er at the end. For example, tall, small. That the comparative forms are taller than and smaller than. Okay. Rule number two, when the adjective ends in y, you have to erase, you have to drop letter y and add er. But before this er, you have to add a letter I. Okay, so for example, lazy, lazier than, and happy, happier than. Okay. Rule number three, when one syllable adjectives end in consonant, vowel, consonant, you have to double the last consonant. Okay. For example, fat and big, both are consonant, vowel, consonant adjectives. So you have to double this last consonant, that it's letter T and letter G. Okay. So fat is fatter than, and big, bigger than. Okay. And the last one is that you have to memorize the irregular forms of these adjectives. These two are the most common used adjectives. Okay. So the comparative form of good is better than, and the comparative form of bad is worse than. Okay, thank you.